non-minority person playing a minority character, you will never really understand what the person goes through, right? No matter how much research you do.
My sister's wearing Reeboks or something like that. And one of the girls from school was just like, you wear Reeboks? Have you heard of Adidas?
He had tested for Dhruv, then he tested for Neeru. And I auditioned for Balli for, I don't know what reason, because I cannot pull off a Balli at all.
One of the things that we assume about rich kids is that they're all the same. But rich kids are not all the same. Because there are rich kids that have money and there are rich kids that don't have money.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Quint. And for everyone watching, we are today talking to the creator of the Netflix series Class, Ashim Ahluwalia, and we also have with us Anjali, Sivaraman, Chintan, Rachchh, and Madhyama, Segal. My first question goes to Ashim. When I watched Elite, I was instantly mesmerized by the show because of just the scale, and it's a great show. And आपने for Class India के लिए उसको adapt किया, right? You've kind of brought in things like casteist violence and religious divide, and you've kept in things like privilege and conversations about sexuality. So tell us about how you went about that. How did you bring the show into India?
I was actually keen to make something about teenagers and young, rebellious teenagers as a feature film. But I never found the right project. And it was just sort of a random accident that I was asked, would you like to take a look at this show for adaptation? I watched it and it was very different from what I know. Like in terms of the filmmaking style, it was very telenovela style, it was very glossy. I just wanted the story to be the same, but the telling to be totally different.
Coming to the cast, all three of you play very intense characters. I feel like सारे characters का ऐसा internal and external conflicts बहुत सारे हैं. So when you're trying to kind of get into the skin of this character, how do you go about that?
For Sabha, I think like she's already coming from a troubled past. And I think that really had to reflect in the way she interacts with everyone in school, or whether it's her people she likes, people she doesn't like. And I think there was this like suppressed, repressed emotion, which Ashim actually did first tell me about. As the series progresses, she evolves. Non-minority person playing a minority character, you will never really understand what the person goes through, right? No matter how much research you do, no matter how many people you talk to, you don't have the same experiences. But you can just say, put out, probable situations or emotions that you think a person would go through.
As an actor, I would say for performing execution's sake, for me, it was a dialect. So we had a dialect coach for the same. As a character, I don't think I would be able to find a person exactly as Farooq. His attributes are matching to Farooq, because every character, like every layer to what my character is. Firstly, he's from Kashmir. Then he's coming to Delhi, starts peddling drugs. At the same time, he's homosexual. So like this combo is very rare to find for me to even have a chat with somebody.
I'm South Indian, so I did have to work on my accent a little bit. So I did a bit of Hindi tuitions. I think I drew a lot of inspiration from my own life because I did go to an international school, and I actually was one of those I was like one of the NK kids, but not to that extreme, because I shifted from a much smaller school into a much bigger, more glamorous school. And I understood the gaze from the other students because I experienced it firsthand.
What was your student life like, be it college or school? And just in general, I'm assuming it was slightly different from Class.
Slightly? Excuse me?
I think we all had very different experiences, I think when I started adapting this, I went to a South Bombay school. I went to Cathedral, which was like, at its time, a very fancy, prestigious school. And I really hated it. I think one of the things that we assume about rich kids is that they're all the same. But rich kids are not all the same. Because there are rich kids that have money, and there are rich kids that don't have money and are pretending to have money and want to fit in. And I think Yashika's character came a lot from that. I saw kids whose parents had lost all their money, but they were really insecure about being around other wealth, right? And they were the ones always that were pushing this wealthy agenda more than the kids that actually had the money.
I feel me and Sabha are similar because I was in a private school in Delhi, and then I shifted to Chennai because my parents shifted to Chennai, and then I came back to this school. And even though there was not direct discrimination, but there was always this slight, like, what shoes are you wearing? Which car are you coming in? What bag are you carrying? And I was brought up by my grandmother in Delhi, and she has earned everything through dance, that too through classical dance in Delhi. And she has always been very strict with me about like the things I owned, or things like, nahi tum Nike se nahi, tum Bata ke joote pehnogi. That time, you don't understand ki hamesha paise nahi hai. And I'm not saying that that was a huge factor, but for her it was. She didn't want to spend on, these extravagant things that ultimately don't matter. And I remember her owning a van, like a Maruti van. The times I used to use a car and not the bus, I used to make the car stop a little away from the main gate because I didn't want to enter, and I didn't want kids going like, you own a van? Because that used to happen. And those are the slight microaggressions that you face, at least I faced in school. And that's where I like completely relate to a lot of things that are shown in the show, when people are like, aise school hote hain? Haan, hote hain.
So much to relate to. We had an Omni too.
You guys are omnipresent.
Just going to say that my story is very similar. So I remember when we switched from an Omni to a Wagoner, and how happy we were as a family because we finally had a car with AC in it.
Yeah.
And we drove around the whole Air Force campus. My dad was in the Air Force, showing the car to all our neighbors. And then cut to, we joined Malyadati International School. All of these kids were showing up in Mercedes and, BMs and like all of these fancy cars. I hadn't even heard of most of them. And so I had the same thing where I would make them stop further away from the gate so the kids wouldn't see me getting out of a Wagoner into the school. So my sister's wearing Reeboks or something like that. And one of the girls from school was just like, you wear Reeboks? Have you heard of Adidas? When you go to most of these international schools that have such like affluent people going to these schools, they've been in those schools since like nursery. So they already have this kind of really strong bond. So the cliques that you saw in the show, it's very much like that.
Coming back to Ashim, there's a lot of discussion in OTT, especially when people are like, oh, there's a lot of sex, there's a lot of violence. And I personally don't agree with that kind of complete censorship on that front. But how do you as a filmmaker navigate that?
I said this before, like most of our media, our films, our series, they're not based in reality. It's based in the fantasy of what people want. It's an aspiration of what people want. It's not real. So actually it was I thought it was quite funny that when the show dropped, the first sort of criticism really was, oh, it's so unreal. It's so unbelievable, it's so unreal. And I'm like, so they're like 50-year-old people playing college students, and that's not unreal because that is what we've seen our entire lives, right? So it's really interesting what is considered unreal. For me, I'm very clear. Like, I'm not interested in the unreal. I'm not interested in fantasy. And I'm not interested in making you feel safe. I want to make something that makes you think about what you just watched. It leaves you with something. And so for that, you need to deal with things that are in the newspaper. You need to deal with what's like real, and that is sex, and that is drugs, and that is mental health. I'm not for sex in a voyeuristic way. I think there's lots of shows that just have sex to sell, and you just skip through the bits and you want to watch the nudity, and it's that kind of stuff. I was very clear. I think that's, a separate conversation, but even with the way we shot sexuality, it was very integrated.
I want to find out, what were your auditions like? And when you went to audition for these characters, did you think that you were going to get it? Are these the characters you wanted to play?
I think I gave my first audition in March. Oops, my cat, sorry. In March 2020. And it was very, very, very different from the last audition that I gave. And I didn't hear back at all. Nothing. Zip, nada. So I was like, yeah, I didn't get it. So then many, 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 many months later, they got back to me saying, hey, the director wants you to do another round of auditions. So I did another round of auditions, and then they came back with some feedback as to how I should play it. So I did another round, and then another round, and then another round. And then I think maybe my 5th round or something, they were just like, okay, this we can work with.
Wow. I auditioned it around February 2020. Then lockdown happened. I forgot that, I gave this audition. And then I tested, there was a message for me that you have to test for several other characters. Firstly, I tested for Dhruv. Then he tested for Neeru. And I'm so grateful to lockdown because I had this big of like stubble beard, and that I think works out for Neeru for me, because if I do the audition clean shaven, I don't look like a Neeru at all. And then I auditioned for Balli for I don't know what reason, because I cannot pull off a Balli at all.
Thank you so much. This was such a fun conversation, and I'm so excited to see you guys and like more stuff. Thank you.